Good shape.
I like these.
Finally, the 23rd. Once a month it happens. Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the Coast Salish people, specifically Shiano First Nation, on whose territory the District Metchosin building stands, and our neighbor South Nation. We recognize and respect our First Nations governments, all of whom have a long-standing relationship with the land and sea waters that continue to this day. Welcome to the Finance meeting of October 23rd, 2023. Please be sure to have your cell phones turned off, including the vibration mode. There are two meetings this evening. The first meeting is the Finance Committee, followed by the Council meeting. At each meeting, there will be an opportunity for the public to speak, a public participation. This is an opportunity for you to speak to a topic pertaining to the specific meeting that we have on the agenda tonight. So on the first of our agenda is additions and approval, and I would like to ask the committee to change 2B under presentations. Violet Metchosin Community Day Summary is not able to attend this evening, so we will hear from her at a future meeting. May I have approval for the...
Move as amended.
Approved by Mayor Little, seconded by Councillor Shupin. All in favor? Carried, thank you. And presentations. So this evening I'd like to ask Veronica Carroll, CEO, and Cory Herrera, Board Chair. Okay. They will be doing a presentation for the Children's Health Foundation at Vancouver Island. So if you'd like to come up to the, to the mic and start your presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. I do apologize for being so dozy that despite clicking into Google Maps, I still put in community hall, not municipal. Thank you so very much for inviting us this evening. My name is Cory Herrera. I have the distinct honor and pleasure to be the chair of the board of the Children's Health Foundation of Vancouver Island, and I am humbled to be here with our wonderful CEO, Veronica Carroll. So we wanted to introduce ourselves a bit to you, tell you a little bit about the foundation, because despite the fact that we've been around for more than 95 years, a lot of people don't know about us. And we think it's time to go out and introduce ourselves a bit. So what we do is we invest in the health of island kids, and that means all the kids on the island. It doesn't mean they were born here, that they started out here. all kids who find themselves on the island. And our vision is that all the kids should have access to the health care they need. We're not medical staff, we're not Island Health. We are a private, not-for-profit foundation, but we are dedicated to supporting access to health care. So as I said, I think we look pretty good for being more than 95, don't you? Okay. We started out with the vision of one mom who needed to get access to care for her daughter. And so we started off. It's a long story, we have very little time, but as the Queen Alexandra Solarium, over the years we've changed our name, we've changed our location from being a TB solarium that was essentially on the grounds of what's now Brentwood College to moving, and now we find we still have buildings on what we call the Queen Alexandra lands in Cadborough Bay, Victoria. Some years ago, though, we decided that the Queen Alexandra Foundation itself was a tiny bit limiting to us in that people identified us so strongly with Victoria that they missed the piece, the very important piece, that we're about access to health for all the kids on the island. So we changed our name, and we've been sort of working on that change of vision, change of perspective since then. Because when I mentioned to you, we own and will shortly directly operate Janice Place, a home away from home at the Victoria General. People go, that's you? Yeah, that's us. 2 years ago, we opened Qualayu House in Campbell River, and people know that's associated with us, but because we're co-located on the grounds of the hospital, sometimes they think we're an offshoot of Island Health. We'll never stop having little struggles. But let's stay on the positive. We care deeply and have continued to care deeply about 3 major aspects: early childhood development, youth mental health, and we take a broad definition of youth, by the way, I'll come back to that, and children and youth living with complex needs. Because frankly, we know that brains continue to develop until you're into your late 20s. We can't always serve everybody in their late 20s, but we know there's no magical cutoff at 19. You don't age out of our hearts just because you're getting a little bit older. So I'd like to point out we've overlaid this on the map of the whole island and the small surrounding islands because I want you to have that visual notion, that gut feeling that we have and we feel every day about the reach that we must have in order to live up into our vision. So, yes, and the surrounding islands. All right, but what do? We have one big direct program that many people will have heard about. It's called Bare Essentials. And basically, if you have a little one who is perhaps looking at complex care needs, and maybe what you need is money for a tank of gas to get you from your home in Port Hardy down to Vic General, we can help with that. Sometimes we'll pay for accommodation. If we can, we may also accommodate you at Janice Place, if we've got room, if it works. We pay for things like special helmets to help kids ride bicycles and get their balance and so forth. Whole bunch of different things, but Bare Essentials, that's what we call it. Homes away from home. A lot of people may or may not know, I saw some nods around Janice Place, so you know the idea is that if you have a child who requires treatment or requires extended specialist care at the hospital, you need to be there to be with them. You need to be close by. What our vision is we have Janice Place, Qualayu House, yes, it's kind of a secret, but not that much of a secret. We're dreaming about Nanaimo now. What we try to do is work with Island Health to get what's called a license of occupation so that we can be within 2 minutes of the entrance to the hospital, so that parents can be every moment of the day with their kids. We also have child youth and family centers, and here some of your friends and family may well know our Souk Community Center, We own and operate that, as we have one in the West Shore in Colwood. And what happens there is not programs that we're running directly, but it's a hub for service. So at the West Shore, we have Island Health with community health outreach. We have children and families are located there, but we also have the Métis Society, we have Thrive, we have a number of others. And what I have learned through humble experience by meeting people who work there is that the corridor interaction sometimes, not only between the families who are there, who did you see, but also between the staff. Hey, do you have something that could help my client? Those kinds of things are just magic. We believe very, very strongly in co-location. We've seen it be tremendously powerful. And we also, thanks to the generosity and the farsightedness of very special donors to us, we've been able to operate 2 major bursaries. And one, I'm just going to mention one because I know we're short on time, Lisa Hughes. So she was an amazing young woman who died way before her time. Her mother struggled and advocated beautifully for her. But the notion, the vision was, yes, we have access to university, to college, tuition and stuff, but there are some young people who need a little bit more support as they go through. And these bursaries allow them to have that extra amount of financial support that might pay for specialized learning equipment, it might pay for a different type of motorized wheelchair that wasn't necessarily what they needed at in high school. All that kind of stuff. We enter into some strategic partnerships and programs, and I'm just going to take a moment more to mention our partnership with Boundary, because as I said, youth mental health is critical to us. And what we often do, I call proof of concept. So Boundary is an incredible operation, and we were able to get involved with them and to provide some support to help them get established in Victoria. We are thrilled to pieces. They are operating in different locations on the island now. We've been partnering with them. Bare Essentials, oh my goodness, I have a Kleenex, this is good, because I often cry. The numbers here are powerful. The need is overwhelming. Just a week or two, Veronica and I were just chatting about it. We have staff who take this program on with a referral from health professionals. They might be a physical therapist, they might be a nurse, they might be a social worker, and they need something. And the appetite for our help is enormous. All of these things, I talked about the Lisa Hughes bursary, and I didn't talk about the Women's Institute bursary. All of these things are 100% funded by donors. Oftentimes people are a little shocked and astounded when I tell them we get no government money. We are completely funded by private donations. And those donations have gone for decades and decades. Janice's Place, so home away from home. It's not perhaps like your home or my home, because it's meant to be a bit more shared. Families have private rooms with baths, and they share kitchen facilities and living room and play areas. And they often need a lot of privacy. These can be really troubling times. Like the dad who came down one night because his wife had had a 3rd trimester ultrasound in Campbell River, and they were told, you might want to drive to Victoria now. And they got there, and the staff said, the doc said to him, if this were my wife, my child, I'd go into surgery right now. And I've got no hard way, right? And so this guy who just came down in his t-shirt, shorts, and running shoes thought, oh, well, of course, but what am I going to do? And somebody handed him one of our business cards and said, just go out the door, turn left, walk 3 minutes. There's a room waiting for you. So, people stay with us as long as they need. The longest stay last year, 110 consecutive nights, but that's unusual. Kuala House, we love this story. So sometimes it's not standard. I don't know if you are all better informed than I was, but Campbell River is the furthest north part of this island that has obstetric services. So if you're a woman looking at giving birth, you can't stay at your home in Port Hardy when you're approaching your time. Depending on your circumstance and what medical advice might be, you've got to go to Campbell River, sometimes as much as 4 weeks ahead of time. So Qualayu has a slightly different focus because we're reaching out in particular to women expecting a child. Same general structure, the same wish to always provide a warm welcome. And our operating costs are roughly $500,000 each. Again, 100% coming from donors. There, I did it really fast, and I think I breathed a few times. But what I really, really wanted to share with you is that as we realize that we have to do what we call extend reach and reputation, we need to work harder every single day to make sure people know that we're there, make sure people understand what we try to offer, and to encourage people to seek us out. We are always, I'm going to be honest with you, we're always looking for more donations, but the more important thing in my humble view is that people know we're available to serve. Thank you so very much, Mayor Little, for inviting us here this evening. Thank you to your council. If you have any questions, we're delighted.
Committee, do you have any questions? Mary, sure.
I'm curious about your ambitions in Nanaimo. So are you actively looking for a site? Have you secured a site, or is this all mum?
We know where we need to be on the grounds of the hospital. We have been in very active discussions with Island Health, who have been wonderful partners to us for many years. So we're working away at it. The way it works in these kinds of things is that you don't want to jump in until you are sure that you can build it. And so we're not quite ready to say, we're building this, are you going to come along for the ride? So it's our dream still, but kind of a lively dream, wouldn't you think? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Schucman?
Sorry.
So thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, Cory and Veronica, thank you so much for your work. And I've been thinking about branding a lot these days, and sometimes, it gets mixed up with selling coffee, selling computers, but often it also means building awareness so you can raise more funds, but also building awareness so people just know you exist and all the good that comes simply from that. So thank you very much. I got you on the money part. I will internalize that a little bit. So thank you.
You know what I have one time said to a guest of ours at Qualayu House, actually she was a grandmother who was bragging about her little one. And I said, there is something that you could do for me when you go home. And she said, what? And I said, would you tell your neighbors and your family and your friends that we're here? And she said, oh, I could do that. So if I may make that ask of you, please, tell folks that we're here. We would love them to know.
Okay, great.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much, both of you.
Thank you. Okay, so next we have public participation. So if there's anyone in the community who would like to speak, please state your name and the street in which you live.
Patty Whitehouse, Rocky Point Road, to the Finance Committee. As you prepare for budget discussions, the Dogs and Metchosin group encourages you to make a point of planning funding for the signage we recommended in our report to you, the recommendations of which have been adopted by both previous council and this council. Signage to advise people of their responsibility to keep their dogs under control in Metchosin's public places. As we suggested, it would be reasonable to consider a plan that would see signage and dog waste receptacles, I hope, installed over the course of a few years, beginning with the places where the potential for conflict is greatest. Keep in mind that in the coming years, we expect to see increasing numbers of people from outside the municipality coming to enjoy the outdoor recreational opportunities we provide, and they'll come with their dogs. They will need to know, and we need them to know, what's expected of them. We also encourage council to build some funding for enforcement of the under control requirements in the enforcement budget. This need not necessarily be ticketing, except in extreme cases that really deserve it. A few years ago, the CRD dedicated some enforcement resources to putting enforcement officers on the Galloping Goose at select times to remind users of the requirement that dogs be on lead, and it was pretty successful. I seldom see dogs that are off lead on the Goose, not nearly as many as before that effort took place. So I think that that approach is something to consider, at least as a first step. Yes, I haven't. It's probably too much to dream of to enlist our fire chief, grant finder, and grant writer extraordinaire to find funding to help, but it is a dream. The Dogs Metchosin Group remains prepared to work with council in its efforts to put our recommendations into effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to have to a spot at the mic? Okay.
You might want to say, Veronica and Cory, you don't have to stay till midnight with us. You're welcome to leave at any time, but you're welcome to stay.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we turn to page 3, adoption of the minutes. This will be for the Finance Committee of September 11th of 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor F. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. And page 7, receipt of the minutes for the Agricultural Select Committee, September 6, 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Mayor Little. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you. And then on page 23, staff report. Not 23, page 20, where are we here?
9.
Page 9, I'm too far ahead of myself. It's going on so swiftly. There we go. So I've asked Ms. Tarnowski to come to the mic and present the financial report for the 3rd quarter, please.
Good evening, committee. So in summary, the 3rd quarter financial report is presented slightly different from the past. So if I can direct your attention to the little table that's on the report. So the bottom part of the report. So this is showing each of the departments, is what I'm going to refer to it, and a really quick snapshot of the actual spend to date compared to the annual budget. Keep in mind that you can't simply say, okay, we're doing okay if we're at 75% because we're 3/4 of the year through. That is because not everything, some expenses are, I'll call it seasonality. We do it in different times of the year, so it's not equal amount throughout the year. So you can't take the 100% and average out monthly. So overall, things are looking at the positive side. Let me just see here. The operations are looking pretty good to date. Of course, we're keeping a really close eyes on, close tab on the numbers, because there are a few line items that have gone over budget, but overall, as a department, we're doing okay. The one thing, if I could just speak a little quickly about the wildfire deployment. So to date, we have received almost $495,000 in revenue, reimbursement, but that's not all of it. There's still money that's still going to be coming in. And again, the $330,000 is showing the expenses incurred so far. So that will be most of the expenses, but the revenue is still coming in. Okay. As I've mentioned earlier, the financial projection is looking positive. Again, it's hard to say at this point how big of a surplus we will have at the year end. I would like to caution the committee, though, there are a couple of big ticket items that were unplanned for, which I've noted under the projection area. One of them being having to repair engine 4 at approximately $25,000. And we've had to replace the aging heat pump at the school. So it would cost almost $8,000. If the committee has any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Thank you for that. What is the age of the heat pump at the school?
8 years, 9 years, can you recall? Maybe it's over 10 years. Or maybe it's over 10 years.
At the community house?
No, at the school.
Oh, you talk about the one in Mile Zero
yes,
area space?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that one's easily.
It's old. So I think it's over 10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
How many do we have over there?
I don't know.
So at this point in time, if I can, all the classrooms, we have installed heat pumps in all the classrooms.
Okay, so it's not one major one for the whole school then?
No.
Okay, okay. And $25,000 repair on the fire truck, so what was the ailment? I saw the mechanic out there for a while. Can we report on what was wrong or what is wrong?
Sure.
Chief, you'll be in a better position to answer that.
Do you want me to come up there?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm not a mechanic, but I can show you pictures. So the fan, apparently a blade on the fan broke, and they're really heavy plastic, while we were driving, and it broke, and it completely destroyed the radiator and the entire housing. Like, it chewed up everything, plus all the other fan blades. And unfortunately, because the vehicle's from 2003, and to get an OEM part, or even to get any similar part that fits with the proper screws and all that, we've had to order that in. So it is, we're fortunate because we have Mike Locke, who's a firefighter, and an EVT, an emergency vehicle technician. So he's actually doing all of the repairs in-house, which is actually, although he's working around his own full-time work schedule, is way faster than taking it down to a commercial repair shop, and much cheaper because he's not charging us for $180 an hour to sit there and work on it. So it's completely ripped apart right now, but it will be put back together by Halloween, so not to worry. So we're very fortunate to have him on site to do that. The $25,000 is kind of a guesstimate. We paid one bill for a new, not a new rad, but I don't know what they call it, a rebuilt radiator, and that was, I think, $6,000. Yeah, $5,000 your card, $1,000 on my card, so $6,000. And then, then we're waiting for the new fan to come in. So there have been some bits and pieces. And while the engine is kind of, like the guts are ripped out of it, there are a couple other minor repairs that we're doing while it's already out that we know would have to get done again in the next 5 to 7 years. So there's a couple of grand there that while it's out and being done, it's best to get it done now so we can extend that life as long as possible.
And is this the engine that is fondly known as Pepper?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yes.
I've got a picture here, it looks like him, so.
Yes,
Or her,
it does.
whatever it is.
It.
Okay,
Right.
good, great, thank you very much, appreciate that.
Thank
Okay, so I did have a couple of questions. Specifically, and it's in reference to actually what you said, which makes a bit more sense to me, but because this is a working document still kind of in flux, and I noticed that there's some things that are blank and some lines that are not. So just trying to understand the expenses in the school side, I guess. Where if we look at line item, excuse me, under the revenue, where it tells us, how much we've spent so far. So line item 1591, the total there, the 113,335, and then when I go down to the expenses, I'm trying to calculate, according to the table, it says 53% Metchosin school site. But if I'm doing the math of what we've got there, and I do understand we're missing one significant component, and that's the 42,500 in line 2950. But if I start doing the math between the 113,000, and then what we've got below for the total of the school site and expenses, the percentage is quite a lot different. So I'm not sure if I'm doing the math correctly, but adding up these different sums, it doesn't, the percentage would be more like 85%, but perhaps I'm not doing it correctly.
You've lost me there, so we're talking on page 21?
Yes, page 21, on where it says account 1591 of school site revenue,
Okay.
miscellaneous contributions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so adding the 113,000
Mm-hmm.
right there, and then below it's 136,000 for,
So the table only shows the expense side.
oh, okay. Okay. So with the 42,500, that doesn't get calculated in
Until year end.
portion? Oh, it's a year ahead?
Yeah. No, under year end, all those entries that, so the 40, okay, I'm not seeing the 42,000, which line item are you?
It's not been spent yet, so it's just above that. It's the school capital repayment.
Right, so, yeah, so that doesn't get entered until year end.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of year end entries that we do at year end.
Okay. And then on the next page, page 23, minor details, not really about the accounting, it's just more about the wording. So line item of Glen Forest Road is actually Glen Forest Way. And the other one below that, the new vehicle, and I think I brought this up before about new vehicle backhoe. I think that actually is incorrect because the 275,000, I believe that was reserves for the single axle truck that's coming, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so it's not backhoe. Those are the only queries I have at the moment. Committee, do you have any questions? Councillor Gray?
Thank you. So through the chair, Mr. Nevsky, looking at the table on the front, I'm seeing roadside trails is 126% of what's expected at this point in the year. I wonder if there's an explanation for that, or if it's just the regular maintenance of particular trails. Do we run into trouble?
So it's maintenance of 6 trails that are being charged to that account. Those being Kangaroo, Annie Jackson, Rocky Point, Medill, Pears, William Head, and Lombard. So the 2 trails that account for more than 50% of the budget is Rocky Point and Pears Road Trail. That accounts for 51% of the budget to date. Sorry, the actuals to date.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mary Lou?
Yeah, so perhaps in the budget deliberations, we can account for the increased need of maintenance of these 6 sites. So make a note that we should increase the budget for that, those items, as well as, was it storm damage? Or is that the storm damage, do you think that's going to be a yearly thing, or was that a one-off?
That's a yearly, so it's anything related to any work that the crew has to do related to storm damage or down trees or anything like that. So it has been yearly event. It's the wind and all those things that come from storm. So yeah.
Probably that one as well.
Yeah, and the road cleaning, we contracted that out, correct?
The road
that's-
cleaning.
Because that one is up too.
So just for the budget deliberation time, it goes without saying that we can expect the cost on cost pressures again. Services, utilities, all the non-discretionary items.
Yeah, and I do recognize that we actually were cautioned about the signs because we were upgrading to better reflection, and that's why that's 189%. So hopefully we're in better shape going forward this year, not having to spend quite as much on that. Hopefully we've addressed it. Councillor Schuppen, do you have a comment?
I don't, other than to say thanks very much for the information. It's easy to read, and yeah, thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to this is just for information, correct?
That's correct,
Yeah,
yes.
information, okay. So we move on to the next report, page 25. And this is the budget discussion schedule. You'll see that's listed here. The only correction I would suggest is we change it from the Tuesday to the Thursday.
Oh, yes, that's right,
So it's a
Thursday.
Thursday date.
It is Thursday.
I had to check my notes from that before. So that's good. That's Ms. Tarnowski and I had met to discuss some financial stuff, and this was one of the ones we found. At least I feel like after our discussions, doing everything on one day was a lot of work for ourselves and staff. We separated to Tuesday. Didn't seem to make a big difference. It was still as much work for me. So selfishly, I said, could we do it Thursday, which I know last term we had done it a few days apart. So hopefully that will work with people's schedules. And we'll do it late in the afternoon again, I think 4 o'clock it says here, so that we can involve or invite our public to come and be part of it as well, and not to go too far past dinner. So the goal is less than 2 hours.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
So this is the proposed schedule. It doesn't mean we have to attend all these meetings, and hopefully it's no more than that. Just keeping in mind that it's really nice to have that cushion at the end that we can approve the bylaw sooner than the mandatory May 15th. So it just gives everybody a little bit of breathing room. So.
Yeah, and it's every 2 weeks, and we'll be starting 2 of them before the end of the year, which will be a step ahead from last year with the election and such. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So that brings us to page 27, Councillor's update. So the first thing I have listed here on my report is the agricultural portfolio that I am part of. On Friday, the Ag Committee had presented what we call a Farm Forum. We've done a number of those, or the district committee has done a number of those through the years. And last year we had quite a large workshop type style one to discuss things like the ag plan, and it was very much a workshop. There was probably over 50 people there. This was a little bit more, a little smaller, and we had 30 people that were in attendance. So we brought up things like the next steps for the ag plan, because we do now have a consultant that we are working with. And so one of our members, Alex, had given a report on what to expect with that and which farms will be a part of that, things that they're going to look for through the next several months. And I'm hoping that he will come and report to you on occasion as to the progress of what's happening there. Also, the purpose of what that ag plan will do for our whole community of farmers and upcoming farmers. Other things we talked about was the farmers map, which you saw in the news this past spring, and what our goals are for the future, to bring back our Metchosin grown brand. It's an actual title that we have. What is our target audience? Where do we hope we're gonna, are we going to print more of these? And if so, we felt we should probably do those in color. There's a cost to that, perhaps getting some sponsors, that sort of thing. So we did a lot of brainstorming in that regard. We also asked some of our newer growers to speak. So we had Christine from Gathering Sage Medicinal Herbs to explain to us her journey so far in starting her little business and where she hopes to go. And same with Sweet Beans Farm. They unfortunately had to leave early because they still, like many farmers, have day jobs. So we did get a progress report from them ahead of time, so we were able to report on that. Another young farmer who spoke about his ambition to do, he's currently working with Perry Bay Sheep Farm, and he's wanting to do mushrooms and such, so he's looking for a place to be able to do that. So he was putting a call out for assistance in that regard. And then of course I pulled Mayor Little in to get a snapshot on the DCM farm study tour that we went on as well. So it was really great to have the new growers step up. These are young farmers, And in all 3 cases, they actually lease land or are looking to lease land in our community. And I would say they're probably about in their 30s maybe, age. Very ambitious, have really amazing ideas. And I have to extend that to the room. There was a cross-section of ages. A lot of young people, a lot of people have been doing some farming and stuff here. So a great exchange of different ideas, including roadside stands, understanding land use bylaws as to where to place those. Different people had ideas about doing farm cooperatives, but they weren't in areas where you could legally do them. So I was trying to be really encouraging how I could help them with finding that information out to set them up for success. And so there was a lot of great information that was exchanged in the, it was 3 hours we were together, but there was time for networking as well. So they were really keen to do more of that, and I encouraged them to go forth and do that. That they don't always need to have the Ag Committee to do that, but the Ag Committee is there for a conduit of communication with council and a place for us to have reference to. So that was a great example of what could be coming up in our community with our farmers. The other thing I'd like to report on is the West Shore Parks and Recreation, which I sit on the board. We've been working on, actually with the West Shore Parks and Rec, Wanfuka Water, and the Greater Victoria Public Library. We're all in budget season now, so we're all talking about strategic plans and working on draft budgets, which means the meetings are much longer and much more detailed. We will be inviting both West Shore Parks and the Greater Victoria Public Library staff to come and do a presentation. We missed a little bit last year just because of schedules, but I'm hoping they will come and be able to address not only our council but our public, so that they understand what services they do provide for the amount of money that they're paying. West Shore Parks and Recreation has been also dealing with some site security issues. They have had some problems with incidents with abusive language towards staff, theft, drug use, public intoxication. Occasionally they have some camping on site, so they've been working with the RCP on that, and staff has been getting extra training on how to manage these different situations and who to call and how to cope with it to keep our public safe as well as the staff as well. So we have lots of children and lots of different age people that attend anywhere from very early in the morning to in the evening when it's dark. It's dark out, but there's lots of big lights, but still just for everybody to keep safe and make sure that these people that are being a little bit disruptive get the help that they need as well. So that's what they're doing. A little bit of news that's coming up on probably in 2024. We're working at getting some pickleball courts down where the volleyball area is. So there'll be some more information coming on that. I know there's a keen interest of pickleballers in Metchosin because they've been emailing me. And we're also working with Tennis Clubs Canada, who do these coveralls. So that it'll be year-round pickleball and tennis. So we're working on that. So more to come in 2024 on that. Okay. Regarding the water, Wanfuka Water, Mayor Little and I met with CAO Ted Robbins of the CRD Water to discuss the water concerns that we are having with our residents in several of our neighborhoods, the Laban area, Laban, Kangaroo, Tiswold, and offshoots of that, Neil Road. Lots of the concerns with the aquifer and that. So we're trying to do some brainstorming as to where we're going to go with that. In times past, we've had the same concerns, but in different neighborhoods, the Arden Road District and the Aquarius. And we were successful in getting provincial and federal grants for that. I know CRD is also looking for grants. They're not as easy to come by, but we will do our best to work on that. And I think Mayor Little is going to be planning something like a water day to open to the public to come and discuss once we get more information with our CRD counterparts. The Great Victoria Public Library has emerging local authors, which you can apply for. This is a program for celebrating the Victoria's rich writing culture. And it features self-published, independent, and small press books written by the local artists between 2014 and 2023. The deadline for these applications is January 15th of 2024, and the featured artists, they're literary artists, are anywhere from the ages 6 to over 90. So it's pretty exciting, and those these are people that are doing this all by themselves. They're not going to big publishing companies and that sort of thing. But it's quite fantastic that the library is able to support and continue this program on. It's an ongoing Bufferland Working Group. We are finished with our terms of reference. It's been a great group of residents to work with, all coming from different factions of our community, with a variety of ideas and brainstorming that went on. It's been a pleasure working with them. We'll have a report, I believe it's on the next agenda this evening, so I won't go into too many details on that and spoil it for y'all. And the most recent excursion that Council was given opportunity to go on was the UBCM. So this is the Union of BC municipalities, and it's a 5-day conference. I had the pleasure of going on. The very first day was a farm study tour, and it was of the Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows. Again, these were 3 different farms that were on the tour. It was an all-day tour from 8 till 4. All 3 farms were generational farms, and it was celebrating the young, resilient farmers of these different families, and the fact they've had to adjust through the times. The first one we went to was Blue Magic Greenhouses, and they had 2 different properties. One was a 5-acre, one was a 15-acre. It used to be a food farm, and then their son grew up, went off to school, came back, and is now a floriculture. And he had some very interesting things to share with us. One of the things that was outstanding is previously he was busing workers in from Langley area, I believe, and now he actually has been able to add on to his house, making it like apartments. And so 5 people work full-time year-round, but the seasonal workers are actually able to stay on the farm. So that's reducing costs. It's better for the environment, and they're readily available to start work when required. Interesting enough, this is he's really tapped into the market. I think they only had 6 different kinds of flowers. They had a certain kind of lily, hellebores, which are for some reason being very popular at weddings. These are very short, stubby-looking little plants. They're all white. And they're used for boutonnieres and in bouquets, and so they've really tapped into that market. They also do international sales, so they're going off to auctions and stuff. Another outstanding point of view is they have these moving greenhouses, and so as the season changes with certain flowers, they can move them over. These greenhouses on these great big sort of like train tracks. And I thought that was quite fascinating to be able to extend the crop a little bit longer and such. The question of food security came up because people say, well, it's a farm, we don't really eat flowers, and they've got a plan that if such time that they need to have food, they would take out all those plants. The soil is so well amended and full of nutrients because they're constantly doing this that they'd have no problem turning it over. Their biggest challenge is the competition of the real estate. They have next door to them, there was a property with a very large house, and it was 29 bedrooms or bathrooms or something.
22, yeah.
$4.5 million. He says, I can't even afford to buy that. So he's looking to expand, but it's It's just not cost effective. So as we've talked about before about the home plate and having smaller houses and using the land better, this was one of their big concerns as well, that they're lobbying their governments over there. So just quickly, so I know we still got another meeting to go. We visited Silver Valley Farms. This is a also generational operation. They have several farms, actually. That's cooperative. That's quite large business that they're operating. Blueberries. I've never seen blueberry trees over my head. They were in a huge stalks. And we'll probably, Councillor Mayor Little and I were on this tour. We took lots of photos. Maybe we'll put together a presentation at some point with some of the machinery and stuff that they use. But they had some bird sounds, and I thought, oh, this is so lovely out here. And one of the people that was on the tour was trying to get on her Merlin app to figure out what kind of bird sounds it was. It wouldn't pick it up, and we found out it was actually a loop. It was recorded birds that would actually scare off the birds that would come and eat the berries. So these are just some of the tactics that they had to use, and so it's really interesting. Hot Cot Farms, it was once upon a time a very large cattle farm. Now I think they're down to only 100, and so most of the farm has gone into cranberries, and so there's 3 siblings and they all have a different job to do. And they did cite the fact that it's amazing that they actually get along, because they each have their own job to do. One takes care of cranberries. I think the dad's still doing the cattle. They have a brand new abattoir. It costs $5 million. It's quite a building. It's probably about the size of this building. But they're also doing composting with all of the affluent that comes out of there. I think I was the only person interested out of the 60 there, and so I never got to see that part of the operation, but that's okay. There was another component, which was a great big timber frame building, which has a meat market in it, plus a storefront, similar to a red barn, but it would sell other things that other farms are doing. And they also do weddings and such, which I think is what the sister is doing. So they're being very diversified. So this is what we're seeing even here in Victoria. We've seen it with Gaelic Farms, we've seen it with Mitchell Farms, where farmers are diversifying, whether it's agritourism or entertainment or whatever. So those are just some of the highlights from that. And one of the final things that I just wanted to report on is accidentally there was a post on Facebook from one of my council colleagues in Colwood who posted a beautiful picture of waffles. And was saying something about it, and I said, "Well, hey, I'd love to come to your place for breakfast." Next thing you know, it morphed into not just his own council, but our whole council had a potluck at this fellow's place, and it was a great brunch on Labor Day weekend. Beautiful weather, everybody brought something, and what started out to be 5 people ended up being like 20 people. But it was wonderful to get 2 councils together, away from all the business, and just have a lovely time connecting. Our spouses were there. It was great. So it was a very celebratory way to come back into a season of meetings and busyness. Mm-hmm. So with that, I would like to close the meeting, adjourn. So if I could have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Gray, second by Mayor Little. Call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome to the council meeting of October 23rd. Thank you, Councillor Donaldson, for the land acknowledgements this evening. We've got an agenda before us. If I could have a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the Pinks correspondence, that would be great.
So moved.
So moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We don't have any presentations. Public participation. Should you wish to speak, please identify yourself with your name and your road. Thank you.
Patty Whitehouse, Rocky Point Road. I'm pleased to see the animal control bylaw finally on the agenda. The work that's been put into it and revising it, in my opinion, is well spent. It's much improved. I especially appreciate the full inclusion of the definition of under control as recommended by the Dogs and Metchosin Working Group, as well as new and effective language regarding aggressive dogs, which, among other things, address the situation that we heard about earlier when a resident came home to find a neighbor's dog in her driveway threatening her. And at the time, we didn't have provision under the bylaw to deal with that, and now we do, and that's great. I have some concerns, which I've discussed with our Deputy Corporate Officer, Tina, about the structure of the definition of under control, in that all the elements of it are under Part B, but they also apply to Part A. And I think that I am a bit concerned that people could think that those elements apply only to unleashed dogs when they do apply to leashed dogs as well. However, in my discussion with Tina, I understand the law will apply as it was intended, regardless of a person's misinterpretation of it, so I'm fine with that now. And that if this or any other section of the bylaw turns out to be a problem or inadequate, the bylaw can be amended. I want to express my very great appreciation to Tina for her consultation with me and the group, and the work, tremendous amount of work that she did to work with the legal counsel to make sure that we got it as best as we can. It really shows, and it's very much appreciated. And I urge council to give 3 readings to the bylaw tonight as presented, with adoption to come at the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Eric White, 4290 Metchosin Road. I just want to say that I attended the Agricultural Forum on Friday, and it was fantastic. It was well organized. I have to give a kudos to all the people who put that together. I just have to put it out there that we as a farming community are actually in a dire situation. The median age in the farming forum was much too high, and I appreciate Shelley's generosity in, you know, how youthful we all look, but I know that there was only 3 of us in the room that were under the age of 40, and there was nobody under the age of 30. So if we can get a call out to our youth to somehow get them involved in our farming community, like, that's really what's needed to make farming sustainable and chosen. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Beth Bacon, Metchosin resident. You have 2 letters for me. I won't read them. I hope you've had a look at them. What I'm responding to is the letter that was copied to Metchosin from Peter Jones, Mayor of North Sandwich. And they're fighting valiantly against the rock quarry in Bamberton, which is, you know, a big threat to Sandwich Inlet. And there's been a lot in the news about it. Hopefully you've been following it, but I think it behooves us to add our little bit to say, yeah, this isn't right. And why would we do this? And that is because, according to the Mining Act, it could happen here. Somebody could do a rock quarry here. They get a permit from the provincial government, not just through a process or anything, like somebody at the desk offers them a permit. Apparently you can even get it by email. And you can start work, and it could be against the municipality's zoning and bylaws and OCP, and you know, we can jump up and down and stomp, and the Ministry of Mines trumps anything that we have to say about it. So the Mining Act is back in the gold rush days, and it needs to be brought up to standard, because all the good work we do on conservation and environmental protection and climate strategies, and we're being so good, but we can be overruled by the Mining Act. If you want to know more, and I hope it tweaks your interest, you can look up the problems that they had in Highlands with OK Mines. And Highlands was really definite. It doesn't belong here. This is our aquifer. You're polluting our watershed. It's against our zoning, and on. I mean, it was against everything that Highlands stands for, and they lost. And they lost in the appeal too, because the Act has to change. You know, they can only rule in court according to what the Act says. But they haven't given up. So there's a group that's formed for Mining Act reform. And that's another thing for you to Google. Google OK Mines, Google Mining Act reform. And then hopefully you would Google the Saanich Inlet Protection Society. They have some very smart people in the Saanich Inlet Protection Society. And they've got the research on the Saanich Inlet. It's a fjord that doesn't flush. It's highly susceptible to pollution. We've got whales in there and other marine life that would be are going to be threatened, because there's going to be more big barges and lights at night, and they're storing some kind of product. They're crushing and storing and moving rock product, and when Bamberton started, they didn't have an environmental assessment. And there's some kind of loophole where is if you're not increasing by more than a certain percent, I think it's 50%, if you're not increasing your project by more than 50% or whatever the percentage is, then you don't need an environmental assessment. So they've never had an environmental assessment, and they always increase the size of their operation by like 49%. So people are up in arms about that. I hope you'll join in, and it's for protection of us, because it could happen to us just as easily as what's happened to the Highlands and what's happened to the Saanich Inlet there. And I want the other place to look is UVic environmental law, and there's a surprise in this. And so I was reading, there was one success where, because there's no teeth in the Mining Act for enforcing thou shalt clean up your mess. And so there was a copper mine up by Jordan River that was leaching copper into the river, and probably other pollutants as well. And even though the mine had been closed in the 70s, it was still leaching into the river. And so a concerned citizen took this up, and they went to the Environmental Law Society, who will provide law students to get on it. And they got on this case, and Tech Industries, I guess, had bought the properties, had bought these operations, and Tech was made to pay for the cleanup. And you know who gets credit for that? Ken Farquharson. Did you know that?
I didn't.
You did?
I did not.
No, I didn't know that. You knew that? So do it for Ken. Get in there and fight.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak this evening?
Bonnie River, Neil Road. First of all, I want to thank Council for giving me the opportunity to serve on the Bufferland Working Group. I completely had a bash. I really enjoy it. It was a team that worked well together, and I'm pleased with our recommendations, and I now look forward to what's ahead, and I hope it'll be in a timely manner. Thanks again.
Anybody else wish to speak this evening? If not, we'll move on to the council meeting adoption of minutes on page 5. This is the council meeting from September 11th. As presented, does anybody have any comments or questions? If not, I'll take a motion to adopt these minutes.
I'll move to adopt.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. The special council meeting on page 13. This is the special council meeting from October 5th, 2023. Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Schuken. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then the special council meeting of October 12th on page 15. Moved by Councillor Schuken, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then receipt of minutes from the community planning portfolio on page 17. Councillor Schuken.
Thank you. I do wish to propose one addition to the minutes of the community planning meeting for October 16th. And it's to add a bullet to section 2. And if we could add it to the sixth bullet from the bottom. Sorry?
The minutes are just for receipt.
For receipt.
They can be amended at the community planning.
Okay, great. I'll do that then. Thank you very much. Move receipt. Thank you.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Schuken, seconded by Councillor Epp. Comments? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we've got the Environment and Natural Areas Committee meeting of October 16th, page 21. Councillor Gray.
Move receipt.
Move by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Schuken. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then the Public Works and Protective Services Committee meeting of October 16th on page 25.
Move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Moving on quickly to the Mayor's report. Just wanted to briefly update. I'm a commissioner on the Victoria Regional Transit Commission, where we've been in the fair review process, as well as reviewing the financial and performance report summaries for 2023-2024 for the service plan. There's two small graphs here that didn't really come out that well, but on the left is the contributions, local versus provincial, for both the conventional transit on the left and the custom transit on the right. And that was just to show you the legislated funding formulas for both. Anyways, I continue to advocate at that board for regional transit, but also an emphasis on the West Shore as well. And that's for your information. I also attended the Accessible Transportation Advisory Committee meeting. I'm not on this board, but we were asked to attend. So Mayor Ryan Windsor, who is the chair of the Regional Transit Commission, and I attended just to hear firsthand experiences of the challenges of people with mobility issues have with our transit our transit system. It was really interesting to hear from their perspective what needs to be done, and we'll take those comments back to the Commission. As Councillor Donaldson said, we were able to attend the Union of BC Municipalities Conference on September 18th to the 22nd. It was a purely exhilarating conference. It was a great time to connect with people all over the province and share similar stories. And there's many of the challenges that we face that were echoed by our municipal partners, and we did hear loud and clear the priorities of the provincial government. The three of them are housing, housing, and housing, and so that was a common theme. Maybe the fourth was the environment, but housing was definitely up there. There was a lot of sessions on housing. The governance committee that I chair at the CRD, we met on October 4th. We're just right now going through all the community needs summaries, which provide an overview of the operations, the strategic context, the servicing levels, initiatives, and the performance metrics for each of those community needs. It provides information like the staffing, the timing, and the service levels needed to fulfill the strategic priorities. We were provided with, I think, 6 of them on that day. We didn't get to the code of conduct, but that is, we were provided with that information as well as comparison with 8 other jurisdictions, and we'll be bringing that forward to the next governance committee meeting. All of council, as well as Beecher Bay band, were invited to a Council of All forums, and this was held just last week, October 14th. It was held at the Songhees Wellness Center. It was intended to bring together the First Nations leadership and the local government leadership just for some dialogue, to build relationships and explore ways that we can work together. So I appreciated the opportunity. And lastly, we were invited, both staff and council were invited to the Eavesdrop Cafe at William Head. It was a really interesting performance by the inmates at William Head Institution. It was sort of bewildering at times, lots of laughs, and I really appreciate that the William Head Institution invited not only council but also staff to that. And I also continue to meet with the warden, the assistant warden, and the staff of the Citizens Advisory Committee almost on a monthly basis to foster the positive relationships and clear communications between the District of Metchosin and the William Head Institution. So that's it for my mayor's report. I will move on to page 35, which is business arising. And so this is business arising from the minutes to be considered at this meeting from the Community Planning Committee. Councillor Shukin, did you want to take this away?
For sure. So, Mayor Little, thanks very much. I wish to move that council direct staff to bring forward a report on business license fees in relation to short-term rentals, consistency between the District of Chosen Business License Amendment Bylaw number 647 and provincial legislation and regulations regarding short-term rentals, and recommendations on enforcement around short-term rentals. Pending the release of provincial regulations and more information from the provincial government regarding short-term rentals. So moved.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Epp. Questions, comments, concerns? If not, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Great. Thanks, Mayor Little. I wish to also move that council send a letter to the provincial government petitioning for an additional observation wells for Aquifer 606, and that council request a staff report on best practices for improving water in new subdivisions in preparation for revising the District of Metchosin Subdivision Servicing Bylaw number 38, 1987, and that staff check with what other jurisdictions are doing, look for specific amendments, and submit the bylaw amendments for legal counsel to review. So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Councillor Shuka, I just wonder in the sentence that says best practices for approving water in new subdivisions. I wonder if that should read best practices for proof of water in new subdivisions.
Best practices for
proof of water.
Proof of drinking water in new subdivisions. I think that's a very good amendment. Ms. Hanson, do you think you have that down? So proof of drinking water in new subdivisions. I think that's what we have here. I would second that amendment.
Okay. So amended by Councillor Shukin.
I think we have to approve.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll do the layer approach. Okay, so on the amendment of the addition of the language, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. On the main motion, Councillor Shukin.
So moved on that.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Anybody else have any comments? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Councillor Shukin. Councillor Gray, on page 37, this is consideration for the Council from the Environment and Natural Areas Committee recommendations.
Thank you, Mayor Little. We've got two motions, recommendations that came from the Environment and Natural Areas Committee. And so dealing with the first one about the buffer land stormwater management planning, we had a motion from the Environment Committee, but I'd like to amend that. We talked about it at our last meeting about what we were needing and where MEANS was coming from. And we ended up this motion calling for an environmental professional to review the Center Mountain Plan. But I think what we should really be doing here, we've got our staff working on this at the moment with a professional engineer, and we have a hydrologist review. But I think the real issue that MEANS was interested in, or we were asked for, environmental ideas. And I think we might consider a slightly different motion here. The developers committed to do green stormwater infrastructure following CRD guidelines. Our citizens have expressed their concerns about meeting the standards and best practices for green infrastructure. And that's the kind of, from my perspective, the one part that's missing. Now, of course, I'm not running the program. It's really our CAO and our engineers looking at all of it. But I wonder if we might, around the motion you have before you, I'd like to move the following motion. That Council authorize the CAO to engage a qualified professional to assist the district as needed to review the adequacy of the green infrastructure design and future opportunities, and plans to slow, clean the water, recharge the aquifer, and assist with summer flow, and provide recommendations to ensure present-day best practices. If I had a seconder, I would just finish my explanation.
I would second.
So I'm just eager that we make sure our CO has the authority to get somebody to look at the green stormwater infrastructure, because the other work has already been taken care of as far as I can tell. And I want to make sure that we get the best we can get in the green infrastructure side of things.
Okay, and this was a recommendation from the Environment Committee?
The Environment Committee's motion before you is a little bit different, and so I'm jazzing it up.
Okay, and that's okay with the Environment Committee?
Well, we are the Environment Committee when we're composed differently.
Sorry, the Metchosin Environmental Advisory.
I spoke to the chair today about it, and he's fine with that.
Okay. If you could, so we've got a first and second, could you read the motion again, please?
Certainly. To authorize the CAO to engage a qualified professional to assist the district as needed to review the adequacy of the green infrastructure design and future opportunities, and plans to slow and clean the water, recharge the aquifer, and assist with summer flow, and provide recommendations to ensure present-day best practices. So the developers put forward their plan, and and they say they'll follow practices. We want to make sure they're doing just that.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I would speak in support of this motion.
Mm-hmm.
It covers a lot, from green infrastructure, slowing the water, recharging the aquifer, summer flows. I think it's a lot of what we're after, and it does broaden the scope of the expertise that we've been seeking, and we've talked about this a few times now with the motion that we made on September 11th, and then also when we were as part of the Environment Committee as well. So I think this gives further direction in terms of who we can get and what we ask them to do. So I'm in support.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? No? Okay, well, I'll call the question on this amended motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, great.
Thank you. The next recommendation from the Environment and Natural Areas Committee of October 16th was that Council, and I'll move, that Council direct staff to proceed with amendments to the building bylaw as it relates to the zero carbon step code, and that staff bring forward proposed amendments for Council consideration.
Moved by Councillor Gray, second by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Great. Thank you. Councillor Epp, the business for October 23rd from the October 16th meeting.
Okay, the first one is on combining affordable housing with the new fire hall. And on a note by Councillor Shuka, I'm just going to remove a couple of the words funding sources from the very first sentence there, just because we don't really need it in that one. We have it in the next one where it makes more sense. So I will move that Council direct staff to incorporate housing for the fire hall feasibility study, and that staff, and that Council direct staff to communicate with the relevant housing funders identified in the funding sources summary regarding the possibility of obtaining additional funding for the fire hall feasibility study.
This is moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shuken. Discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to make the point that we're kind of moving down the path with the fire hall feasibility work. I'm speaking in support of the motion. But I wanted to be clear that we haven't yet decided about whether or not to proceed with the fire hall changes. So I think this makes terribly good sense looking at this big project and how it all fits together. But I didn't want a misunderstanding of anybody that here we're approving, marching forward with everything all at once. There's still lots to think about what's the best interest for Metchosin. But I'm supporting the motion.
Go ahead, Councillor Epp.
Yeah, we did also find out that we could go ahead and get additional funding with a housing, relation for the feasibility study. But even if we get the funding, that doesn't mean that we have in any way given approval for that. But it just does. It just adds a component to it. Which we can decide on in the future.
Okay. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And then we had a nice visit from Brooks West Shore students at the last meeting. And so I'm going to move that Council provide a letter of support and encouragement for the Brooks West Shore students' Westmont Prize project submission.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shuken. Comments? No? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I should have said we did get a nice note from one of the parents afterwards, just saying how welcoming that our council and the chambers had been to the group of students. They were quite enthused. So moving on to the school, I move that council hold a visioning workshop, possibly with a facilitator, to set priorities for use of the school and grounds and discuss options for management and maintenance.
Okay, moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And the last one is a grant application for the UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund and the Community Resilience Fund. So I move that council support the application of the 4 provincial grants, and the council authorize the interim CAO to execute any agreements related to successful grant applications.
Okay, moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shuken. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move to the reports for action. Before you on page 41, you have a consent for the CRD bylaw 4551 Land Assembly. Ms. Tarnowski, did you want to introduce this?
So good evening, Council. So this letter is from CRD. It's just seeking approval, consent for the bylaw for CRD to add land assembly and housing and land banking to the CRD's inventory. So it's just a bylaw requesting Council's support for that. And I don't have any more to add to that other than that.
Okay. So they want us to consider a motion that council consent to the CRD adopting bylaw 4551, land assembly, housing and land banking service establishment bylaw, number 1, 2010, amendment bylaw number 2, 2023. Okay. There's a little bit of background on the second page as well. And this is allowing them to proceed with this land banking bylaw for 551. Okay. Could I
Mayor Little?
Yep.
I noticed that the CRD has given us a suggested resolution on the bottom of page 41 if we chose to move ahead with this.
Okay.
So,
This is this is the resolution that I just read. Councillor Epp?
Yeah, like it does mention for the first amount of $11,500,000, the property taxes on the average house would go up $26. Do you know if there's any forecast for if they go ahead and borrow up to whatever it is, $85 million for this acquisition, if that would mean another increase in property taxes?
I don't believe it does. I think it's the $26 per household there. I think, yeah.
Mayor Little?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I had a couple of questions. I get the idea, I think, here, but has the CRD in the discussions either at the Housing Trust or the CRD board talked about the definition of affordable? I'm concerned that the definition is often means it's unaffordable. Are we talking about below market housing? Are we talking about some other definition of affordable?
Yeah, Zach DeVries, the chair of the Housing Committee, has talked about the definition of affordable housing and always bringing that up. I think they are very cognizant that what we need in the province is not necessarily more housing, but what more affordable housing. And I guess that's why they have housing initiatives and land banking in order to meet the needs of everyone in our community, especially the most vulnerable.
Great. I'm thinking that's what the CRD is in business for in terms of this particular proposal, but I'm sort of looking for something more than the word affordable. Hopefully it is, there is a reference to below market housing at one point, but not the entire grant. I'm pleased to see that it's future affordable housing development along transit corridors, which I think is fundamental for the new builds, and it aligns well then with what the province has put forward in terms of the housing program and I guess the discussions at UBCM. The other question I had though is, do we know what it means on page 49, middle of the page in the conclusion, looking at scoping a rural housing program? What might that be?
Whereabouts is that?
Middle of the page, the paragraph begins, as part of continuing to advance efforts, and it's the second last line, to acquire and or advance affordable housing projects, scoping a rural housing program, working in partnership with the CRHD on complex care housing.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Ms. Tarnowski, do you understand what they mean? No, I can ask that question though.
I can definitely find out.
Thank you.
Councillor Epp.
Well, it does say on page 45 there, under the rural housing strategy, talks about increasing, preserving, and broadening the supply of affordable housing in small and rural communities, recognizing the need to approach housing solutions in rural communities with different assumptions than those used for conventional housing interventions in growing urban regions. So it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to say it, but it does emphasize that they understand the difference between rural and urban, which is good to see in print.
It may relate to, for example, the widespread zoning we have for affordable housing in the form of secondary suites and secondary houses.
Yeah.
Would fit. Great. I was just concerned it might be something more different than that. Thank you.
Okay. No other questions. I'll ask for a mover for this motion from the CRD. So moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Comments? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs Complete Communities Funding Grant Application. This is on page 69. Okay, so we have a grant application that was completed by the fire chief. The resolution went through pending discussions with the fire chief. Fortunately and unfortunately, the fire chief was deployed at the time. And so we thought that this would be a great opportunity for the fire chief to come to the podium and we could ask her questions particularly about this request for the council resolution for this grant. So this is your opportunity to ask questions about this Complete Communities Funding Grant. Okay? So, ask away.
Well, I like to ask what it specifically is for. I remember this when it came forth in the summertime, and there was 4 different project streams, and we weren't really sure at that time which one we were going to consider. I think housing was one we kind of knocked off the block, but housing, transportation, daily needs, and infrastructure. So I was just wondering if how we've narrowed it down to a specific project or what.
Right, so that's close. There are 4 streams: housing, transportation, daily needs, and infrastructure. And to be eligible, the project has to actually include 3 of those streams.
Okay.
So it would be, all of them would be ideal. If funding, you want to remove that off the table, then we could, or funding. If housing, we want to remove that off the table, then that can be, we still have the other 3 streams to work with. The intent, if I can, about the Complete Communities funding is really it's a provincial program, and they're just trying to get planning and coordination to provide that, kind of that core area needs, being able to get to your needs, be able to have that infrastructure, whether that's trails, for anyone who might live in that core area. So that's really kind of what their focus is to be able to provide those access to whatever we might need for needs, rebuild that infrastructure in that area. I think they put it really well. The intent of the Complete Communities program is to support local governments and modern treaty First Nations to enhance their ability to make evidence-based land use planning decisions through assessments of their current community completeness, analysis and identification of strengths, opportunities, challenges, and potential actions that align with identified community goals and support creating more complete communities. So the intent of this initial funding request would be for an assessment, another plan. So bringing somebody in to take a look at our OCP, our existing bylaws, and make some recommendations moving forward to be part of a complete community.
And so the issue of housing, this if we were to get grant money for this, it could be applied for housing in the context of housing above the fire hall, for instance. The key assessment findings, identify the strengths, the opportunities, the risks of that within the confines of the OCP, and the lack of sewers and water and everything. That could be housing in that sense.
Correct,
right.
Yes.
And you would tie that into the infrastructure, transportation, and daily needs of all the citizens.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. That's how I see it going. Again, we may not get approved for this because we are small and rural, but.
Let me try. Councillor Shukin.
Thanks, my little, through you. Chief, thanks very much. When I read through some of the requirements for this grant program, my sense was that there had to be some more specificity, like you had to have a project. And I'm not hearing so much a specific project. It's more broad. But I have one for you. So one of the things that we were looking at is in our strategic plan is a village core strategy. And I just wonder if we could orient the grant toward that. Again, I'm just throwing this out to everyone, but I think it could actually encompass the 3 of the 4. So transportation, daily needs, infrastructure, and even housing as well. And if you think about what's happened in Metchosin over the last few years, there are outstanding questions about traffic and parking, although some of those have been answered in the fact that we can't hold big events and we can park people well. But also the place of tourism and big events in Metchosin's future, how we deal with heritage assets, the grounds, place of the fire hall as we move along. So I'm sensing that there's a focused project with the village core strategy, and the grant might be helpful to get us some resources for that. So, thank you.
And that to me sounds like it would really fall into the scope of the grant.
Yeah, I think it would. Yeah.
Councillor Gray, then Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, I've spoken about this grant before when we looked at it, and I think I'm less and less interested in applying for it. There's many grants out there, but I'm not convinced that Metchosin wants to be a complete community. We're right here. We've got soon in the gravel pit development. There's already a big store. There's other things going on. There's going to be an elder's home, possibly medical clinic, and I don't know that we need to rebuild in Metchosin some of those things. So when I read about it, providing a diversity of housing to meet community needs in the core, a small town and main hub of daily needs with most housing nearby. We don't actually have that much housing nearby. When I go through the other parts of it, I'm just concerned that we're kind of, it maybe doesn't apply for us. So if the council was to approve this, I would like it to come back to council so we can actually see what it says. What are the proposed activities, what are the community goals, and what kind of engagement are we making? I'm just nervous about this complete community. It sort of tore North Saanich apart, this idea of a complete community having everything here, as opposed to we're a little bit different. We're outside the urban containment boundary, we're outside the regional growth strategy. We won't be a complete community in my view.
Okay.
And that's okay by me.
Councillor Emmett.
When I was looking at it, of course, immediately thought of connectivity and thinking about something that might be put toward like a decent cycling lane going from our village core into Royal Bay, where there is going to be, a lot of facilities, the grocery store, liquor store, and eventually the health center and the care center as well. So I thought that that is something that covers daily needs, infrastructure, and transportation.
And I think that also within this grant application, they do say that a complete community is how a community defines itself, whether you're urban or rural. And they even note here that within a small town, a town center might be the main hub of the daily activities with most housing nearby. But I think Councillor Shukin's idea of concentrating on the village core and connectivity, since transportation is one of the pillars, I think it's a great idea to apply for as much funding. We will only do projects that serve us well, serve our strategic plan and serve our communities. We're not going to be doing anything that the community doesn't want. And in order for us to do projects, increasingly I'm reminding that we need money for that. So I applaud you for chasing this grant. $150,000 can go a long way. Councillor Donaldson.
So these are all really good points, and like Councillor Epp, I had thought about the connecting with another community. We've done very well at connecting with our roadside trails. Having said that, some of them are not accessible for daily needs for some of our residents. I'm not as supportive with the housing if we're already just past a feasibility study with the fire hall kind of housing there. So it seems to me that we'd be doubling up on grant money. And as I spoke back in July about this, I'm very cognizant of not taking grant money away from other small communities that could use it. But if we could, we already have spoken numerous times of what our needs are, and the connectivity throughout our community. I know it's costing us with roadside trails, but maybe there's some other things we need to think about offsetting some of those costs, but certainly connecting with Royal Bay. Not so much down Happy Valley yet, but there's some things to think about for sure for connecting.
You're also eligible is creating new positions within the municipality for a staff member to carry out existing position responsibilities, which I thought was really great as well.
So just to be clear too, this would be the initial planning document only.
Right.
There's no actual
Infrastructure.
work, that's being done. This would be a
This would be the planning.
Yes.
That's why a new position could be created to help facilitate that. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Go ahead.
Do we need a motion to move ahead?
Well, we've already got a motion that let's see what page was this on? Page 69. So we've already got the motion on page 67 that was already moved and carried. This was pending discussions with the fire chief, and we've also authorized the mayor and the corporate officer to execute any agreements. So we're fulfilling our obligations for that under that resolution. I think that's all we need is a discussion, right, Ms. Hanson? You don't need another resolution, or do you want another one?
I think you should, yeah.
Get another one?
Resolution.
Okay. So the resolution on page 67, could we reaffirm that? Go ahead, Councillor.
Ready to move that council support $150,000 grant application for the local government Complete Communities grant program using the 3 lenses of transportation, daily needs, and infrastructure, pending discussions with the period. We'll end there. And authorize the mayor and corporate officer to execute any agreements related to a successful grant application.
And do we want to include housing in that because of the latest information we received on affordable were to apply it at the fire hall?
I would support that myself because we're looking at it again. It doesn't commit us to it, but I think it might help us to understand what we could do with housing in the village core.
Okay with you?
Okay, sure, we can include housing in that, Ms. Hanson. Okay.
I would second the motion.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Gray?
I just want to speak to that. The reason we left housing off the last time, we had a pretty good discussion about it, I thought, and I said we're not putting housing in because we don't agree with, or well, I put forward the idea that a complete community described here is not particularly what the people of Metchosin are looking for. We've seen tons of grants coming through our process here and look at all of them. It doesn't mean we need to apply for everything. I just don't want to get us on the track to put down these things that we turn around and get to the end and we say, gee, we really didn't want to do that. We spent a lot of time and money looking at something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not interested in that. Adding housing. We've got another group looking at housing on the fire hall already. I do appreciate what Councillor Epp has put forward, which is a transportation corridor between us and a neighboring community. But that would require maybe changing the words complete community to something a bit different. Complete community along with our neighboring communities.
Okay. I will point out that was before we had the presentation on the fire hall. And so it would be nice to be able to get funding from somewhere regarding that needs assessment. I would still be in favor of including housing on that. I don't think any of us, or none of us, have spoke about broader positiveness or need for greater housing in Metchosin. I think this is specific to the fire hall within the core.
I do see what Councillor Gray is saying.
Mm-hmm.
I want to add one amendment, if I could, to this. I'm okay with keeping housing because we're talking about it in the context of the fire hall. However, I would like to add that one final line here, and that the final application is only submitted following council's review of the application documents.
Okay. So with a final review by council of the application.
Yeah,
Okay.
the application program or whatever. So that is, I would move that as an amendment.
Okay, so the amendment forwarded by Councillor Shukin. Do I have a seconder for that? Second by Councillor Gray. Anybody else want to speak to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll speak in favor of the amendment. I'll vote for the motion as a result of that. I see there's plenty of time for the application to get in January 12, 2024. So we'd have the opportunity to look at it and see where we're at. And with that, I'm prepared to support the motion. I'll probably later talk about the housing again and the issue of a corridor and some other important parts for Metchosin, but I'm concerned about the program of complete communities as laid out in the documents in terms of its fit for Metchosin.
Okay. Anybody else wish to speak? If not, I'll call a question on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, on the main motion, as presented by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, and thank you to the fire chief. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to page 85, our flag protocol. This is a new policy called the Flag Protocol. It's an administrative policy to establish protocol for flying flags in the District of Metchosin Municipal Hall and municipally owned properties, and to ensure the practices of raising and lowering the flags is exercised in a consistent manner. Now, it's not very long. Did you have any comments regarding that? With thanks to Ms. Hanson. Ms. Hanson, did you want to say anything regarding this particular policy?
No, it is a policy similar to the District of Soup's policy.
Mhm.
It does not have the courtesy flags as the District of Soup has, but the District of Soup has 4 flagpoles. We only have the 2, so we can accommodate these flags.
Okay. Okay, so the flag protocol is very similar to that of the District of Souk. The difference being that the District of Souk has 4 flag poles, and they're very expensive, I'm told, and we've only got 2. And so the protocol will be off of both of the different poles, with the flying of the Canadian flag and the municipal flag, and then special flags when the municipal flag would come down for other events. Okay. Does anybody want to say anything about this? Councillor Gray, Councillor Jonathan.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort that's gone into this and to put something together formally. I wonder if under municipal it would be a past or present mayor, past or current member of council. We'll just add that we might honor previous members of council as well.
Sure, I can't see why not. So it would be past or present member of council. Okay. Anything else? Councillor Donaldson.
Oh, I was going to actually move it because I like the way it's
Pardon?
represented. I was going to move.
Okay. Okay, well with that, Councillor Shukin.
Sorry, I have one addition or one thought. Is there a mechanism, and I may be missing this, for other types of flags to be flown on the mast? So we mentioned the pride flag, but if there's another organization, a group, or some flag that we chose to fly, is there a mechanism here? And I don't see it as I read it again for allowing and opening the door for that.
Right. And so as a council, we had discussed earlier in the year about specific delegations coming to us and asking us to declare certain paragraphs or sentences, declarations. And we decided that we weren't going to go down that declaration route. And I guess that was extended to the flags as well. Was there a particular flag that you were thinking of flying?
No, not really. But it might be the case if we noted the pride flag. I can't think of any. I mean, the Ukrainian flag, maybe. I don't know. People have flown that. I don't see it, for example. But again, if there's, I wonder if there is room for a mechanism that would allow. And it could be something as simple as council may consider other flags to be flown during certain weeks.
Okay. Councillor Epp.
A follow-up on that, the one I was thinking of, maybe at certain times, might be the one from Chatham First Nation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Ms. Hanson, could we include a clause that other flags may be flown at the direction of council? Actually, I think there was something that happened in the city of Victoria. Was it either a proclamation or a flag or something? They hadn't done their due diligence, and then they had to quickly backtrack because it was from some far-right Nazi group or something. So we would definitely have to do our research before we had any flags flying that we don't know about. Yeah, that's easily done. Okay, Ms. Hanson, go ahead.
You can consider a motion maybe to refer it back to staff.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I mean, the pride flag has a special consideration that we all know about. My concern would be that if we go to the idea of any number of different flags, that they ought to be applicable to Metchosin somehow, to the residents here, rather than political views or whatever. The example of the war in Ukraine is a little bit beyond my ken in terms of what the district would be wanting to fly a flag about.
We do fly the flag of the Legion. I know in November, different members of the Legion come here and help put the Legion flag up for a week. That's the only flags that I can remember that we've flown. Yeah.
And I would agree that there are not too many flags that I would give thought to, and the Ukrainian flag is probably not one of them. But it just strikes me in terms of the policy and just its viability. It strikes me that there should be a door open for another flag.
Okay, so could I have a motion then from you to refer this back to staff for discussion regarding additional flags?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Epp. Yeah, go ahead.
And maybe in that process we could add then the Legion's flag. If it's regularly flown here, it should be included in the policy.
It is in there.
Don't see it in the policy.
Say it again, Ms. Hanson.
Yeah, it's Remembrance Day.
Remembrance Day.
The Remembrance Day says the flags will be flown at half-mast from sunset on the following occasions. It does not say that the Legion will have a flag here.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So we'll refer that back to staff. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. This is on page 91 of your agenda. This is report of the Bufferlands Working Group, the recommendations from the group. Councillor Shukin, would you take this away?
Thank you very much, Mayor Little, and I'm very pleased to provide and discuss the Bufferland Working Group recommendations report that was submitted for this meeting. And in doing so, we met the requirements set out in the terms of reference way back in, I think it was March, that we started off with appointing 7 community members who turned out to be a wonderful team in terms of setting the or fulfilling the mandate, which was to look at identifying and evaluating options for the bufferland, in keeping with the concept of this being a green space buffer. And so I just want to note right off the bat, several of the members are in the room tonight. So Bailey Spiteri, Brian Grant, Richard Simpson, Bonnie Boover, and Gary Smurfoot as well. And there were 2 others, Anna Hall and Karen Hoffman, who are not here tonight, but also Shelley Donaldson and myself. So what you have before you is a report on our considerations, which were informed by community members and also some of the earlier efforts that we had. So the consideration by the NEAS and PTAS, and also the survey that was sent out in August of 2022, I believe. So all of that has been worked through the minds of 9 people and put down in this report. The report itself is fairly lengthy, longer than I thought it was going to be. Originally we thought we might get to 10 pages, but it's now 40. But we begin with the vision statement that we worked on. I want to take my hats off to Brian Grant for both Brian Grant and Bailey for being the authors of that. We next do a summary of the recommendations, our observations and assumptions. There were a number of limitations that we had with this process. We was working with a group of people who were insightful, thoughtful, but not experts in terms of developing parkland. Although we did have somebody who's actually pretty seasoned in terms of biophysical assessments and whatnot. And the discussion of the recommendations, and there's one alternative as well that we want to talk about as well. So, and also within the report are some of the considerations that community members brought before us. So what we've brought to council for consideration, and I do have an action that I want to recommend to council tonight. We put forward a 4-phase process that will essentially work toward having the buffer as an ecological protected zone. And the question might be asked is, how are you going to get to that goal? So first of all, the idea is to rezone to park or an ecological designation that offers protections for this area. With that, we want to further refine the long-term vision. Key pillars, we're getting there, would be managing access, identifying allowed activities, monitoring of the buffer land, enforcement of the zoning provisions that are in there, the development of partnerships that support environmental biodiversity and stewardship resource, and ensuring that we have adequate budget and resource and targets. And we've identified and spelled out recommendations in a little bit more detail within the report. Step 1 in this process, or phase 1, is for council to gauge its support for effectively resourcing a park management plan that again supports the buffer as a protective ecological zone. And what I would propose as an action going forward is that council receive the reports, but that I'm not sure tonight is a great place to talk about and get into in-depth conversation about the report and the recommendations. But we go back to the planning committee where we can have we can reserve and carve out some space during one of the planning committees to have that deeper discussion, particularly about phase 1, which is our support for effectively resourcing a park management plan. So I'll just close off here. We do identify one alternative. If we decide we cannot manage this as a park that works itself toward an ecological protected zone, that we do consider an option of selling to a third party. The key thing that the group pointed out and is behind all of its recommendations is that if Metchosin owns this land, it must be prepared to care for it, and that will take some budget. Hard to say how much, but that is one of the core elements. So, and I'll just leave that to council.
Okay, so you're wanting us to receive this for information. Do you not want us to move forward on phase 1 tonight in terms of discussing effectively resourcing a park management plan, or do you don't want to discuss that? You'd rather do that at the planning committee?
That would be my sense. We've just in terms of our own stamina and attention right now, we've already been meeting since 4:30, and I'm just wondering if it would be good to. The other thing, of course, that we can do is once we've had more discussion, we can develop our thoughts about what might go back to staff for further consideration and recommendation. So the one thing I wouldn't want to do tonight is just bring this back to staff. We've given them a lot, and I think they're really busy. I'd like, if we're going to do something along those lines, be really focused in terms of what we ask staff to look deeper at.
Okay. One thing that I'm aware of, when we rezoned Blaney Park, Blaney Trail to Blaney Park, is we needed to pay for the survey. of that. Has there been a recent survey of the buffer lands, or if we're considering at all park designation, that will be a must? If to petition the province, we'll need to have it surveyed.
Now, I do not know the answer to that question, but I'm suspecting with the boundary adjustment that occurred in 2017, there probably is a pretty detailed survey.
Mhm.
I don't know that for sure.
Okay, so perhaps we could find that out. Yeah, okay. Okay, Councillor Donaldson.
So just on that question, as you'll recall, last December, Chair Paytask and myself actually walked through the buffer lands to find all those pins. Only 2 were missing, it was about 20 total. So there must have been a survey for that land swap to happen.
Okay.
So I'm certain that, I know Mr. Atherson did have a map. I'm not sure where he got it from, and that's what we used to locate those. So I suspect there's something fairly current, at least since 2016.
Okay. So what you'd like us to do is to receive this for information and then refer it back to the community planning portfolio for a fulsome discussion on the different phases.
That would be my recommendation.
Your recommendation. Okay. Councillor Epp.
I just wanted to congratulate and thank the committee for all the work they did in this comprehensive stuff. there's so much of it, it's quite amazing. So thanks for all the work that was put in on this.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Councillor Gray.
I want to support Councillor Schuben's recommendation tonight. I think that's a good idea. It is a complex topic, and so having a chance to go through it carefully and with lots of time would be great. My thanks too to the working group, the people in the room, but those who otherwise are working on it. And it's a big effort, and it shows. I very much appreciate the vision that's been prepared too, so that's a real bonus. Thanks so much, all.
Okay. Okay, so with that, I'll take a motion to receive for information and to send this back to the community planning for a fulsome discussion of the recommendations with much thanks to the working group. Yeah, it's quite remarkable, the progress that you made, and thanks to everybody for working as a team. That was momentous and very, very happy. Thank you. Okay, so motion. That motion by Sherry.
Okay, sure.
So Councillor Epp moves that we receive this for information and send it to the community planning portfolio for discussion. Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Gray. All in favor? Thank you. Thanks very much. So we have the CRD bylaw and animal care services monthly report on page 129, 131. This is to receive for information. You can see some of the statistics are going up. We're not quite at the end of the year, but that's metrics for you and for the public to understand that we do bylaw enforcement here.
I'll move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now next we have a discussion regarding the South Island Prosperity Project, Prosperity Partnership. Susan Tarnowski and I met with a member of the South Island Prosperity Partnership to answer some questions regarding what the partnership's all about. Will cost us about $9,000 a year. And what really came out of that is they're really, in my mind, and also in the opinion of our interim CAO, that they doing a cost-benefit analysis that this is not well spent. The $9,000 wouldn't be well spent here. And while the SIP is a recognized foundation which supports regional economy, I think this more applies for tourism centers, large urban centers that are focused on job creation, workforce development, and business associations. So I would not recommend that we spend $9,172. Ms. Tarnowski, did you want to say anything to that effect, or anything else for that matter? Your opinion on the SIP membership?
It's just that I concur with your recommendation. I too had a difficult time to get solid data to justify it's a investment. It's almost $10,000. That's to be subjected to 2.5% as of now, 2.5% annually. Again, I agree with me a little. I just couldn't justify in my mind that for the investment.
Okay.
Again, of course, recognizing they do great work. It's a great partnership, but for in Metchosin's case, I just don't think that we can get enough value for the fiscal investment. So.
Okay, thank you.
I concur. Would you like a motion to receive?
Sure.
Motion to receive, thank you.
Moved by Councillor Gray, second by Councillor Shukin. Anybody else wish to speak? If not, okay, go ahead.
Just this also came up in the last term, and we did turn it down then, and I don't see any reason to sign on with them this one either. It's really based on economic development, and it really isn't suitable for Metchosin, certainly not for nearly $10,000.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. We also have another request for something that maybe is more in keeping with our sensibilities. This is the backpack project, and this is to provide a drop-off location for donations to the backpack projects for community members that are homeless or sleeping rough. I think this is a wonderful project, and it's a very limited time, 7 weeks or so. They'd have a box here to accept donations. Councillor Gray.
I'd be happy to move that council support the backpack project again this year, and have a donation box in the lobby of the municipal hall to collect donations from members of the community for the backpack project.
Okay, so that's a motion by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Epp. Anybody wish to speak to it?
No, I was going to second, but I did want to make a comment that I'd be happy to return the box to this year. That last year it kind of got forgotten.
Oh, okay.
But it worked out really well because I managed to get more things and had a great conversation with Nikki in that regard as well. So it was a great connection to make in the community.
Okay, super. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we have the correspondence for information. We have, first of all, Minister Hyman's Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, the strategy. This is regarding our human health risk report recommendations back to them on the Trans Mountain Condition 38 of their Environmental Assessment Certificate 17. And they thanked us, of course, for our letter. They said that we raised a number of different important points and recommendations. They did acknowledge that the province was not the keepers of the oceans, that Transport Canada was the lead agency for the authorization of passage. They did note that they have reached out to Transport Canada to further discuss our concerns, and regarding the time course for the response and the eye washing stations. They said they'll consider this recommendation in conjunction with inputs from other reviewers. And we also asked the province to assist with stockpiling personal protective equipment, and they did sort of refer us back to WCMRC to have some discussions with them regarding the PPE. And I think it's probably a good idea for us to loop back not only to WCMRC but also to the Shiano First Nation in terms of their marine response and the possibility of acquiring the CRP. And so I think that was it for the letter in brief. Councillor Gray.
Yeah, MEASC is meeting tomorrow night. It's a bit, and we have put this on the agenda to take a look, and we could see if there's anything extra special we might do. But I wonder if it wouldn't be appropriate here to have a motion that staff contact WCMRC for an engagement session, discuss the possibility of acquiring a CRP, the Coastal Response Package. So the idea being that there's these sea cannons, I think that they are there, that have a lot of equipment in them, and I believe that our fire chief has thought about this in the past, but this would be authorizing or encouraging her to have that conversation to see where we might put one and if one could end up in Metchosin.
Okay, so this is be contacting WCMRC and Beecher Bay regarding that, right?
Yes, I've shared our correspondence with Beecher Bay through each of the steps because we've been working with them on the spill response questions. And so they've seen our correspondence back and forth and the responses as well. So yes, I will share that with them.
Okay, so that's for staff to do regarding the CRP. So with that, that's a motion then? Yeah, so a motion by Councillor Gray, seconded by, so I see some queries here, seconded by Councillor Epp for discussion. So what we're going back to the WCMRC to do. So they have this coastal response station at Beecher Bay, and that we would be interested to know more about mapping out the different CRPs along the south coast, and what else? The possibility of acquiring a CRP.
And just to say, we're in conversation with WCMRC. We're now waiting, Shannon Nation and ourselves are waiting together to hear back from them about the advice that we provided them in terms of the coastline and where the special spots were, the areas that needed to be particularly protected. And so it's convenient to have this letter and build that in as part of our conversation with them.
Mm-hmm. It would be good to get a tour also. I haven't had a tour of the WCMRC site. I think that would be great for council to see.
Yeah, it's the building is kind of up, but there are no walls on it or anything like that just yet. But they certainly are the vessels in the water that one could
That would
look
be
at.
really great to see. Yeah. Okay. Are we clear on the motion? Yeah.
I just have one question. So you're talking about sea cans with the PPEs in them and stuff like that. Now, where are they to be located? Are they just down at WCMRC, or are we talking about having it inland as well?
Go ahead.
That's the question.
Okay.
Exactly. And so Chief Dunlop's here, but there's the whole question is where do we put these things and how? But let's get in the discussion as advised by the provincial minister. Make sure we don't lose that discussion. But there will be, I expect, in the big building that's going, partly constructed in Shannon Nation, there'll be quite a bit of equipment there. The question is where along the coast do we want to put these protective equipment? And I guess you might think this would be more of a population center, so possibly closer than that at Shannon, but that would be the discussion to have happen with WCMRC. They're mapping out all the coastline in terms of where the spills might happen, where the sensitive areas are, and that also is having them think about where they should be placing equipment to contain the spills. A little bit different than this kind of equipment.
Go ahead.
Could we ask the chief to come and answer a couple questions?
Fire chief? Sure. Good thing you're here. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering what sorts of supplies or equipment are in these units?
Typically, I haven't seen one in several years, so I'm not 100% sure what's in the WCMRC containers, but typically it's booms and oil response or spill response for shoreline or ocean response. So respectively, also there is one out at Albert Head, and there is also one at Header Bay.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I thought, because thinking about how these ships actually can get, well, they're not coming in necessarily to get them, but trying to get the equipment to whoever is taking it out there. But I was wondering if there was anything inland that we were talking about as well. So it's just for what's going out on the water. Okay, that's all.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I'm a little out of date. I think when we met them, they were still trying to decide. So if they've decided that, I guess Minister Hayman's a little bit behind the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure that discussion there. I just know that I've seen the ones, physically seen the ones at Pedder Bay, and they've got all the boats and everything there. They also have a full boat. They have a small setup at Pedder Bay. So they also have along with Chiani and their team, have a response plan for the entire area, which I think is what Councillor Gray is referring to as to the imminent spots to get to first, and that response plan for what would be best and for the concerns here along our shoreline.
Okay,
Okay, great.
go ahead. Any other?
Yeah, so when we were meeting, they were talking about where should we put these things in consideration on the maps, but they haven't returned yet with the maps, so that's what made me think we were still.
And they may be
partly
putting more
through.
up there too, hard to say.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so actually we do have a motion on the table. This is to reach out to the WCMRC. That was moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Epp, regarding more information on the CRPs. And anything else?
I think it's okay if we proceed with the motion as we've got, and then we'll just discover all the state of play today and make sure that we've got what we need in terms of discussion with the WCMRC, what they think we need.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Everybody's getting tired, so just stay with us here.
I'll love to see about organizing a tour, Mary Little.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd be really great, especially the docks. That would be really great. And then, actually, maybe we should ask staff to do that, Councillor Gray. That would
That's
be more
what I was gonna
appropriate.
do.
Yeah, we'll ask staff to do that. Thank you. Okay, so we have good news on page 151. This is a description of a grant that we've been awarded, $10,000. Thank you to the fire chief for the fire hall design and planning. Adds to our $40,000 ticket item on the fire hall feasibility study. So, say that again. Okay, and thank you to the interim CAO as well. Yes, thank you both for that. So I don't think we, let's see, this is correspondence for information. And then we have a letter this is from Mitzi Dean regarding acknowledging that October is the Foster Family Month in British Columbia. And of course, we want to thank the caregivers for their efforts to create safe and supportive havens and homes for some of our most vulnerable citizens, many of them that live in Metchosin. We ask that this letter potentially be placed on our website just so everybody can see the correspondence. And I would ask the District of Metchosin Council to support Foster Family Month with much gratitude to the caregivers. Okay, so with that, I'll take a motion to post this on our website.
So,
Moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And then, okay, coming up to page 155. This is 155, 157. This is correspondence from Mayor Peter Jones in North Saanich regarding advocacy for the protection of the Saanich Inlet. There's more to come on this. This is a letter to Peter Jones, or Mayor Jones, and to George Hayman, Minister Hayman. And I did speak to Mayor Jones on the weekend. They are actively pursuing this. They will be providing a brief to all of the partners and everybody in the area with more information on their dismay that this Bamberton Cory expansion has gone through. And I agree with our community members. I think we should support North Saanich in advocating for the protection of the Saanich Inlet. It doesn't affect our shores immediately, like right now, but it will in the future if that is polluted. So I'll accept a motion to receive these two pieces of correspondence, but we'll address them when they come back and ask for a specific ask. But I think it's really important for us to be engaged and informed about this. Okay, so go ahead.
Sorry, just a motion to receive right now.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Motion to receive by Councillor Shukin.
Sure.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Go ahead.
Thanks, Mary Lou. Just two comments from Ms. Bacon earlier today. I think there's two questions here. One is the question of the environmental assessment for this project, but then there's the other one about the potential of the Mines Act and how it could apply to a local government. And that's a deeper issue. Interestingly, I think we all saw that there's a ADICC has come with its, giving us a heads up about resolutions for next year. I don't know enough about, the Mines Act and how it applies or doesn't apply to us. But the one thing that, again, Ms. Bacon says is we probably don't want OK Industries happening in Metchosin. So I think it would be interesting to do a little bit more work in understanding how it could be amended and even keep rallying some support for that.
So perhaps you could have a conversation with some of the councillors from Highlands, since they are fresh off of a battle, and maybe you could get some advice and we could have a joint resolution to ADICC. What do you think?
I will do that, yeah.
Okay.
And there's some fun reading too with the two court cases that were mentioned earlier.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good. Thank you. Okay, we have a letter on page 159 from, it's from the town of Royal on behalf of council. This is a letter that was sent to the CRD board of directors. They're asking for the trail to be widened and lighting to be provided on an extended portion, extend the boundary of the Galloping Goose Regional Trail, widening and lighting project from the Grange Road Spectrum Community High School in the district of Saanich westerly to the Helmicken Road overpass in the town of View Royal. So I suspect they're thinking of the students at that institution there. And this is to receive for information. That's all I can see.
I move receipt.
Yeah, so it moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Any other comments? No? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, we have permissive tax exemptions for the Heritage Tax Exemption Bylaw 688 and the General Tax Exemption Bylaw 689. And so if you will turn to Bylaw 688, this is to exempt protected heritage property from taxation. I'd like to do first, second, and third reading this evening if possible. Okay? Councillor, yes?
I think.
Oh, sorry. I forgot. I'm sorry. Sulin. Ms. Tarnowski, could you introduce us?
Given three readings, so we're looking at adoption of this. So you gave 3 readings back in September.
Okay.
So this is just the final stage, which is to adopt the bylaw.
Okay, so it's adopt both bylaws.
Both bylaws, that's
okay. Yeah, sorry about that. You did tell me that. I forgot. Okay, go ahead.
Are you adopting them separately?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to move that adoption?
I move that we adopt the Heritage Tax Exemption Bylaw 2023 number 688 at third reading. Correct.
We've already done first, just adopting it in general, since we've already done first, second, and third. Okay, so moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Do you want to move 689 as well?
No, I'd actually like to recuse myself.
Okay.
As there are members of my family that are involved in one of the organizations that's requesting exemption.
Okay, you can go ahead.
I too will recuse myself as I'm a trustee of the Metchosin Hall Society.
Okay, so it's up to the 3 of us. We have the night for ourselves here. Go ahead.
I'll move Councillor Dot Heritage Tax Exemption Bylaw 2023, bylaw number 289,
689.
or the General Tax Exemption Bylaw number 689, sorry.
Second.
So moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Any discussion? No? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Next, we'd like to discuss the animal control bylaw number 692. And this, we're going to have an introduction by Ms. Tarnowski. And while she's coming to the microphone, I just wanted to say that I would like to thank the Dogs of Metchosin Working Group for their very thoughtful and precise overview of the bylaw. In particular, I'd like to thank Patty Whitehouse, Deborah Pyle, Dominique Gagnon-Moscow, Lisa Volk, Charmaine Traverso, Monique Anasty, Shelley Donaldson. They started this process in September of 2020, if you can believe it. So this group of 7 met frequently, had meetings and minutes, and they were very professional and very thoughtful, and I thank them for their engagement. It's how a working group should work. So thank you. Ms. Tarnowski.
I have to say I'm very excited to bring this forward. I'm sure it's the working group response council. So just as a recap on a little bit of a timeline and also the highlights of what has been changed or has been proposed in the bylaw. So at the June 19th meeting, council considered amendments to the district animal control bylaw at that time and resolved to send the bylaw back to for comments to the dogs in Metchosin working group and legal counsel as well. So following review from our legal counsel, it was determined that because of the so excessive changes to the bylaw, it was determined and recommended that we essentially rewrite the bylaw and bring it forward as opposed to making changes to the existing bylaw. So that's what we did. In addition to consultation with the dogs in the Metchosin working group, the dog bylaw was also forwarded to CRD bylaw and animal care control services because they will be our partner in enforcing the bylaw, and they need some really great suggestions as well, which have been incorporated into the bylaw. So within some wording within the bylaws that have been updated to really improve clarity, because staff was finding that there were some places where the wording is could be quite vague. So we strengthened the wording, changing words, for example, like shall or shall not to must or must not. So there's no ambiguity there. So in terms of significant changes, so section 2 was interpretation. That was a lot of back and forth about the aggressive dog control and all those things. So the new definition was added for aggressive dog, dog license, habitually noisy dog, leash, and service dog and under control. So just wanted to point out to you that there is definition of dangerous dog in the community charter. So when you look at the bylaw itself, it just simply refers to the community charter, so that if and when the community charter changes, we would have to update our bylaws well. So in a quick snapshot, a dangerous dog means that the dog has killed or caused serious injury to a person or a domestic animal. So it doesn't matter where that action happened, whether in public space or while on private property. So that's irrelevant. It's just the fact the action has happened. Okay. Or the animal control officer has reasonable grounds to believe that that animal is likely to kill or seriously injure again. So that's the definition of dangerous dog under the community charter. In sections 18 to 24, licensing kennel part, we have restructured it to align to the district's land use and business license bylaws. So a few jobs ago that there was just a bit of misalignment, so that has been updated as well. And also to distinguish between boarding and breeding kennels and to clarify both types of kennel operations. Sections 25 to 37 speaks to the owner and handler responsibilities. So a new provision of included, which includes the keeping of aggressive and dangerous dogs. That's from the recommendation by CRD Animal Control Bylaw, Animal Control. Section 38, enforcement. This section has been expanded to reflect the powers for seizure under Section 48 of the Community Charter, and also includes provisions for the animal control officer to designate a dog as aggressive or dangerous. Compensation, which is Section 9 of the existing bylaw. So the provision for compensation has been removed because legal counsel has confirmed that there's no authority or statutes for providing compensation for the municipality to provide compensation. In addition to that, the owners is, it's a very onerous, and the proof of burden is high because that's dependent on the municipality. So municipality is not liable for injury or loss caused by an animal that it does not own or control. And more importantly to that is the provision of compensation under this section appears to violate Section 25(2) of the Community Charter, which speaks to assistance to businesses. So that's it in a nutshell, summary of the bylaw, the changes to the bylaw, and we are recommending the council give first, second, and third reading to bylaw 692. Sorry, 692.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Sheeta.
Mayor Little, a question to Ms. Tarnowski for you. Ms. Tarnowski, what happens to bylaws 676 and 421? Are they repealed? Are they superseded?
Are those current bylaws?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, 421 has the compensation and 676 was the previous.
So those would be repealed.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're adopting the whole thing, 692. That's the bylaw.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to do first, second, third reading? Go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you.
My head was turned this way.
Yeah.
I know. That council give first, second, and third reading to Animal Control Bylaw 2023, number 692.
Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by
I think.
Councillor Abbott.
Separate one at a time.
Do they have to be separate? I thought they did. We go through the process of
They have to be
each.
separate.
All right. That council give first reading to the Animal Control Bylaw 2023, number 692.
Seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
That council give second reading to the Animal Control Bylaw 2023, number 692.
Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor?
And that council give third reading to the Animal Control Bylaw 2023, number 692.
Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Epp. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Bravo. Well done. With many thanks to staff. All of our staff have been involved, and they're so glad to be finished with this. And to the Dogs That Were Chosen Working Group, thank you very much. Okay. And with that, we've just got, there's no other business. We do have time for a couple of questions if it's warranted at this time. If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Does anybody want to ask questions? No. Okay. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, everybody.